Welcome back everyone, and if you're new here, my name is Robert McFarlane and I take your favourite film and TV and I tell you just how the filmmakers do it. Today's film has been chosen by the brilliant Robocat. Thank you so much for your suggestion and I really hope you enjoy this fully caffeinated analysis. We're going to take a look at one specific scene that I have never seen analysed. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to share with you a clue that I think even the most die-hard fans of this film missed to the big twist. The particular scene I'm going to be showing you literally presents the twist of the movie to you, all the way through the scene.
Surprise me.
And you never guess it. So we start this scene in the kitchen and we're looking at the narrator character. Yes, that is actually his script given name and there's a very good reason for that. I'm going to do an episode on that in the coming weeks. What you'll notice is the camera is actually quite low and pointed up. This angle is actually quite practical. The narrator is hearing what's going on upstairs, two people copulating, as you do. And even though he's not necessarily looking up the whole time, we are, which gives us an idea that that is where this sound is coming from. Of course, we're only dealing with stereo sound for the majority of people who are watching this film, so the director is helping us know where this sound is coming from. And now we hear a telephone start to ring. The sounds of copulation continue over this ringing. However, what's interesting here is the camera pans across. It doesn't cut to the telephone and booms up. So the camera rises in height. And this is really, really important because as the narrator picks up the phone, the sounds from upstairs stop.
Hello?
Yes, this is Detective Stern with the arson unit.
So I'm about to reveal the twist of this movie. If you haven't gone to watch it, go watch it now. It would help. So when he picks up the phone and the sounds from upstairs stop at the exact same moment, I believe this is David Fincher saying that the transfer of consciousness has occurred at the time the phone has been picked up.
Hello?
Yes, this is Detective Stern with the arson unit. We have some new information about the incident at your former condo.
The very next move, the narrator carries the phone into the middle of the room as he answers the phone. The camera at the same time moves towards him. This accentuates the distance being shortened very dramatically. We get a real sense of anxiety. Also, we're now very close to the narrator's face. I would like to point out that at this moment, the narrator is looking pretty terrified. If he knew he was innocent of this particular crime, then he probably wouldn't have looked quite so scared. So we end up in this tight close-up on the narrator's face as the police officer starts to elaborate on what they found out about the explosion at the flat.
Freon into your front door lock. Then tapped it with a chisel to shatter the cylinder.
No, I wasn't aware of that at all.
You'll notice here that every time we cut back to the narrator, the camera is dead still. His lines are almost robotic. He's terrified. Even he is unbelievably still, almost like a T-Rex is walking by and he's waiting to see if the T-Rex is gonna spot him.
Can't see us if we don't move.
Now this moment is so nice. It's not subtle, but at the time when you watch it, you just think, well, it was a coincidence.
Who would go and do such a thing?
I'll ask the questions.
Tell him.
The director is basically saying, Tyler did it, but he's doing it in a way that leaves the narrator completely oblivious. But what I think is more interesting in this shot is the fact that Tyler Durden arrives next to the narrator with zero noise.
Who would go and do such a thing?
I'll ask the questions.
Tell him.
Now, bear in mind that this house is a really old, creaky house. Every time we see them walk around this house, it makes a lot of noise.
There was no lock on the front door.
So how did he get up behind him without us hearing him at all?
Tell him.
Two interesting things happen here. We cut out and around. We then cut from this wider shot back to the shot we were on originally. Now, I think there are probably two possible reasons for doing this. One, As many of you will know, David Fincher shoots a lot of takes of every scene. So he probably had a lot to choose from, and then he realized that an early take or later take was better of the early part of this scene, and then the later part of the scene was better in a totally different take. So he needed to put something in to cover up the cut between the two performances. Or this cut actually added drama to the moment of shock. By cutting out at the exact moment that he jumped, I felt an added element of jump, anxiety, panic for the character. I probably think the latter is more likely, but who knows? Maybe he did both. If you're suitably caffeinated like I am right now, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of my other caffeinated videos. Thank you.
No, I am listening. It's a little hard to know what to make of all this.
Now, as we can see, Tyler Durden plonks himself in the background of this shot as the conversation between the narrator and the police officer continues. The narrator is still absolutely terrified, but then Tyler Durden says,
Reject the basic assumption of civilization, especially the importance of material possession.
this is not a throwaway line. It may seem like it's actually not that well connected to this particular situation, but in fact, it's the exact reason that Tyler Durden blew up his apartment.
Reject the basic assumption of civilization, especially the importance of material possession.
It was to break the narrator's dependence on the items that he owned, or more importantly, the items that owned him. Side note, check that dressing gown. There is literally 5 cups of coffee on the back of that dressing gown. Not only do I need that dressing gown in my life, it's actually a really nice nod to the fact that he is a separate personality, multiple cups, all inside one.
Tell him you fucking did it. Tell him you blew it all up.
By wording it in that way, it means so much more once you know the ending of the film. It's utterly brilliant. Fight Club really is one of those movies that you just keep getting more and more out of it every time you watch it.
Tell him you blew it all up. That's what he wants to hear.
Are you still there?
But as Tyler disappears, the camera whip pans back. What's interesting here is the use of a whip pan in a situation where a cut might have been more effective for screen time. And by choosing a whip pan instead of cutting, 1, we get disorientated, but 2, we also know exactly where Tyler Durden left this scene, and I think that's incredibly important in something that's about to come up. Side note, check out what's around the police officer in pretty much all of his scenes. The mise-en-scène is actually really quite macabre. If you see over his shoulder on the right-hand side of screen, well, there's a picture of a skull. This goes along with, well, a lot of the themes of death which runs throughout the film. Also on the back wall is an ink blot picture, going along with the same ideas of psychology and psychosis that permeate the film as well.
My parents pulled this exact same act for years.
Tyler has left the frame, and Marla enters. But notice, Marla has entered from a completely different side of the room to when Tyler originally entered the scene. Also, you'll notice that she's making quite a bit of noise. We can hear her coming into the kitchen, even though she's most likely lighter than Tyler Durden himself.
My parents pulled this exact same act for years.
The condom is the glass slipper of our generation.
Marla then gets rather annoyed and goes to get her jacket. She goes to the very same door that Tyler went to just a moment before.
Get rid of her.
Now, as Marla exits, the camera then pans, doesn't cut, pans across the scene back to the narrator, and at that moment, Tyler Durden arrives. But now he arrives from a totally different door to the one that he had gone through. This has all been so beautifully timed because each actor has to start moving at the right time. The camera has to pan across, capture performances for just long enough to convey the right emotion, and then meet the characters as they enter. So as the camera then pans back across to the left, we meet Marla entering from the same door that she just went into. But it certainly makes you wonder how Tyler is jumping around place to place to place. And as Marla leaves the scene, she leaves the narrator's view, Tyler Durden is already downstairs again, even though he went upstairs before.
Get rid of her.
What? Hey, you get rid of him!
Don't mention me.
We didn't hear him come down the stairs. And it was at this moment that I realized something that blew my mind. That there is never a moment in this entire movie that all three characters can see each other at the same time.
Promise me.
Okay.
You promise?
Yeah, I promise.
Promise.
I just said I promise. What?
It's 3 times you promise.
Marla and Tyler almost always exchange places when around the narrator all the way through the movie. In fact, we don't even ever really see Tyler interact with her. We only hear it. It is assumed, but never actually seen. I don't know how David Fincher was able to get that one under my nose. I didn't even spot it. Apart from the ending of the film, this is literally the biggest clue to the character's dissociative identity disorder in the entire movie. And I totally missed it. And before I go today, I've got something for you filmmakers and cinephiles out there. Something that I went through as a filmmaker and storyteller was really learning how to utilize cinematic language. And the very first stage of that was understanding that cinematic language permeated literally everything I watched. So I've released my Cinematic Language 101 course, which you can find up here and down in the description to help you master your understanding of cinematic language.